What if for the rest of 2025 you could save money? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down some frugal tips that can really help you save money during this year. And it doesn't mean going really cheap. It doesn't mean giving up everything you love. It could be very overwhelming at first, but it is really micro steps to break down and really have more in your budget to live. Now, when we start thinking about living frugally or really starting cutting one bill, that's it. Cutting one subscription, cutting one cost, cutting one thing, calling the cable company, internet service provider, your cell phone company, shopping around and seeing if you can negotiate the price. If you can get literally one thing that is cheaper, you can start the gateway. Now, when it comes to being frugal, you also want to track every dollar. That is something that is very important. I preach it all the time when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to a spending plan, when it comes to tracking your money. It is super important to know where those dollars are going. If you're using an app, if you're using a notebook, a spreadsheet, whatever it is, where do you need to cut down on some of that expensive spending? And also looking at cooking from home. This is another place where you can save a lot of different money, making more intelligent and usually more healthy choices, going in there to break it down. So let's take a look and really show you some more. So when we think of home habits, using coupons, cashback apps, credit card rewards, loyalty programs, there are a lot of things that can help you save money, and grocery stores, just like the rest of the market, is super competitive. Cashback apps can even give you the ability to save a couple percentage here and there. And then, of course, if you're getting a double cashback or really cashback on a card yourself, it's going to make a really big difference. It starts to add up, even though it is kind of baby steps. One thing to note with this is if you are using a card for cashback or rewards, you have to pay it off in the entirety, or you're going to be spending a lot more money trying to get that cash back. Now, when it comes to meal prep, planning your meals, this is super effective, minimizing the food waste, saving money, and also knowing exactly what you're going to eat has a huge health benefit. This also cuts down on a lot of those impulse purchases. You know exactly what you're going to use. Now, for me personally, I make a list when I go to the grocery store. Saving money on groceries and only buying the required things that are on my list makes a really big difference. And of course, with the home, you can embrace energy efficiency. There are a lot of different ways around your house, switching to LED bulbs, looking for better appliances or upgrading them, installation into your home, even looking at a tax benefit for energy consumption in some states. So make sure you qualify. But when you start looking again, you're saving a couple dollars here and there. Makes a big difference when you look bigger picture at months, years, even decades when it comes to the efficiency. Now, if you're looking to shop, there are some really ways to do this as well. Shopping off season, buying things off season, especially now where we're coming up to the summer months. Guess what's on sale? Majority of the summer stuff, because they are starting to liquidate it. We know once we start getting in probably another month or two, it is already going to be into fall. It's going to be into the winter. Looking at things that are past the holiday, that are past the season, we have found stuff 70, 80, even 90% off when it comes to shopping off the season, which is kind of crazy. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about subscription services. It is insane to think when you look at streaming platforms, magazines, gym memberships, they are taking a little bit. Even around here, we see membership services to car washes, which again, a lot of people do have. Consider being able to share some subscriptions, saving you a little bit of money, or are you really using all of them? Really think and take and assess with that budget that we made a little bit earlier, what exactly it looks like. Could it just be a habit? Could it be something they're actually using? Or is it something that you could do absolutely without, looking to save and being frugal with a couple dollars? Now, buying in bulk is something that I love to do. When you start looking at your Sam's Club, your BJ's, your Costco, buying in bulk, if it makes sense. That is something a lot of people have to think when you're starting to buy perishable goods. Does it make sense when you're buying 2, 3, 4, 5 of an item? Are you going to use it before the expiration date? Are you going to use it before that item goes bad? When you start thinking of buying in bulk where you can save the most money, things like laundry detergent, toilet paper, paper towel, things like that are non-perishable items make sense when you start comparison shopping with how cheap you can get it, let's say at a Costco versus buying it at like a Kroger or a Meijer. It is insane with how much cheaper it is when you start doing that dollar cost averaging or looking what you're really getting for the money that you're spending. Now, when we start thinking about shopping as well, generic brands, there are a lot of companies that do produce their own generic brands. Again, we see this in Costco, we see it at Sam's Club. If they are the same quality, that is something that I've noticed where some brands really interchangeable, doesn't make a big difference, but there are some that are super different when it comes to buying the generic version or the off-brand version. The taste, the quality for them are not there. Now, a lot of people do this for groceries. You can do it for over-the-counter medication, cleaning supplies. There's a lot of things. A lot of companies that even make some of these off brands are the legitimate brands, which is kind of crazy. They just sell it under the Sam's Club or the Costco name. And when we start thinking about another big way to save money, DIY and self-sufficiency. So basic home repairs, I do this and it comes with YouTube. Just like you're watching this video right here on really being frugal, financial education, financial well-being. You can also do it for pretty much everything. But if you like the content that I'm making, definitely consider subscribing because you can fix a lot of things watching videos, including your finances. Now, growing your own food, getting a garden is another way. When you start looking at the cost of fruits and vegetables, it is a very satisfying way to save money. Growing your own vegetables can save an incredible amount of money when you start thinking of things that, let's say 5 years ago, would be 50, 75 cents or charging $2 or $3. Nowadays, it is incredibly, really viable and really satisfying to have your own garden. And when we start thinking bigger picture, like we said, refinancing, negotiating bills, one of the big things in here, insurance. When you start looking at car insurance, they say to reevaluate or kind of look at companies reevaluating your bill for insurance every 12 months. So if you're sitting in the same insurance policy for 2, 3, 4 years, chances are you could get that same policy somewhere else that is a lot cheaper. Even looking at internet, looking at energy, looking at a couple different things, they might be able to bundle a couple things, getting it discounted, and always make sure that you are talking and you do have someone that is the point of contact for those. Now, when we look at budgeting, and that's where I'm going to leave this video, 50, 30, 20 rule looks incredibly well. 50% goes to rent, utilities, groceries. 30% is that dining out, entertainment, shopping, and travel. 20% goes to that emergency fund, retirement, debt repayment, investments, and making sure if you can stick to that budget. And I know a lot of people are doing kind of the 60, 20, 20, or like the 60, 30, 10. Making sure that you still do have that 10% or that 20% that is going towards savings, retirement, debt repayment, making sure that is still built into the budget. And of course, number one, building up that emergency fund. There's a reason why Dave Ramsey, there's a reason why so many financial advisors and gurus really focus on building up that emergency fund. It keeps you from borrowing more money, which is absolutely crazy because when you borrow money, it comes with an interest rate. That interest rate is going to take more of your money from what you had to borrow, meaning you're going to be possibly in a worse situation than you were before when you didn't borrow any money at all. So the final take on this, guys, starting small. If you look at doing 1 or even 2 frugal things in a week, it's not about the restriction. It's about small decisions that get it right back here with the debt-free journey in its entirety. Pretty soon you will find ways, and it's honestly a game that you can play with yourself when you're going through where can you save money. If it's $1, $2, $5, where can you cut costs? Where can you save a couple dollars? And those dollars, of course, are going to add up when you start looking week over week, having the ability to eliminate debt or putting more towards those investment accounts. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.